It is a beautiful Monday morning, and you know what that means. We are going to get to go through, we are going to get to hop in a 2023 Dynasty Startup Draft. Before we start, though, I just really owe you a massive thank you. I mean, for being a member of the vlog for so damn long now, I truly do appreciate y'all more than you could ever imagine. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. That's why the Fantasy Vlog meetup was so special for me, and I love doing that every single year so I can meet y'all in person. Going to continue to do that forever, and could not be more grateful for you. And let's go through, let's dive into this. It's going to be super exciting because you are going to be looking at a draft that has rookies. Y'all know we've been having to take rookie pick / kickers over the past month or so, but no, we can take Bijan Robinson at the 107 if we want. It's up to us. We get to go exactly where we want. We're going to have to plant our flags, take the exact rookies, which obviously is very difficult to do before the NFL Combine, very difficult to do before the NFL Draft. I mean, before free agency even. But nonetheless, let's get into it. And we have Allen at 1, Mahomes at 2. Lawrence goes at 4. Oh my gosh. Very, very interesting to see Lawrence go there. Obviously, we took Trevor Lawrence at 6 in the last draft last week. I know a lot of people go Jalen Hurts here. I'm going to go Jamar Chase instead. But to see Lawrence before Herbert, that does seem aggressive. I can't even say that it's inherently a bad thing, if we're going to be honest. I would love to know right now, please, if you're in the live chat, I know we have a decent amount of y'all out here. Let me know, are you preferring to go Trevor Lawrence or Justin Herbert at this point? How about this? Who do you want? Just spam the chat with the individual name that you want. Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, or Jalen Hurts. We have Hurts, Fields, Lamar, Kyler going directly after us. Hassan says pending. Colin says Jalen Hurts over all of them. Hassan says Trevor. Oldak says toss up between Herbert and Lawrence at this point. A bunch of people saying Jalen Hurts. I mean, with Jalen Hurts, I completely understand the thought process. And from a redraft perspective, I will say I 100% agree. I think Jalen Hurts is actually probably going to be my quarterback 3 in redraft. Like, I think from a redraft perspective, given the rushing upside that he gives you, you have to be jacking him up. But I am not saying we can't draft rushing quarterbacks. Obviously, we've been targeting rushing quarterbacks for years and years and years. But I will say, in Dynasty Fantasy Football at this point, when we've seen the injury rates be different between the two subsections, yes, we can find extreme outliers. Yes, you can fit anything into an individual narrative if you want. I am to the point saying, I don't know, maybe we go with the pocket passing guys like Herbert to see if they have some more longevity, to see if they are able to stay a little healthier. But, I mean, I could easily be wrong with that. I'm the first person to admit that I could be an idiot, be completely wrong. Okay, so we're in a very interesting spot here. And this is what happens when you have to take Jamar Chase in round 1, which honestly, I feel very comfortable taking Jamar Chase there. I'm not going to think about that one too much. But at this point, I would say my favorite value on the board is going to be Breece Hall. But at the same time, I feel like we may not be able to take him. Last time we decided to go Breece Hall / Jonathan Taylor in this round, it ended up making our team look very gross by the end of it. And this may easily be a horrible pick. I'm not going to lie. This Deshaun Watson selection, if I had it last offseason, I would have been jumping up and down with excitement. But obviously, it's very difficult to look at how he performed at the end of 2022 and be excited about taking him in the second round here. It's more so that if we're going to be looking at the running backs that will be available to us in the third round compared to the quarterbacks that will be available to us in the third, I think it's a little difficult there. And let me know what you think on this as well, because this is obviously a pivotal thing on who you're taking in round 1. Would you rather have the combo of Jalen Hurts and Breece Hall, or would you rather have the combo of Jamar Chase and Deshaun Watson? I'm assuming most people would probably rather go QB round 1. It would have been a beautiful thing if we had Justin Herbert falling to us at pick 7, and I would have been very confident to start Justin Herbert and Breece Hall. Like, I am very jealous of the team at the 106 in this draft who actually gets that combo. But let me know what you're thinking. Yeah, most people are saying Jalen Hurts there. That's what I figured most people would rather have. And real quick, I forgot to do this at the beginning of the live stream. You know, this is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can see their logo right there on the wall. I mean, oh yeah, that all over my apartment. But if you want to get into a draft with us, if you want our 2023 Dynasty rankings, if you want to check out player props each and every week, we got that player prop wrong this past week. You can find the link to Underdog in the live chat in the description in the comment section. When you sign up with promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $200. So it's pretty much free for you to check out. Available in damn near every state. I won $150,000 in drafts there last year. I will flex on y'all for that one. And a ton of fun. And like I said, minimum of a $10 deposit, you will get our 2023 Dynasty rankings as well. But dear God, we have CJ Stroud, Bryce Young sneaking into round 2 here. I definitely still prefer Deshaun Watson over both rookie quarterbacks. I'm always willing to bet early on rookies when it comes to running back, when it comes to receiver. I'm always willing to go youth over veteran. But a quarterback, that's honestly the one position where I could care less about the age of an individual player. Obviously, you need to be aware of their age and knowing how that's going to affect their dynasty trade value in your own individual league. But interesting spot. And our favorite player of all time, Trey Lance, goes at the beginning of the 3rd round. I mean, at this point, I don't know what to do with Trey Lance. Y'all know I have him in pretty much every dynasty league imaginable. And I just cry myself to sleep every night because of it. But still. And Jackson Smith and Jigba. I don't know if Moose Goose is an Ohio State fan, but going with Stroud and Njigba at the 2-3 turn here. I mean, personally, I think you got to go Garrett Wilson. Now, I love Jackson Smith and Jigba, and what's hilarious is he actually played over and was more productive than Garrett Wilson in that same offense. 1 second. I was not paying attention to the board. Let's think. Do we go Olave? No, we're going to go Tyreek, considering the fact that we went with Deshaun Watson early. I think that at this point, we're maybe building a team around contending in 2023. Tyreek Hill's actually not as old as you would assume. I mean, Olave would have been that other guy that we were going with. Obviously, Olave, you're going to get production now as well as that long-term value. But Tyreek Hill, 28 years old. So if we assume that we get 3 more years of top-tier production where he looked phenomenal this season, I don't hate the pick. I'm not over the moon about it. It is what it is. But yeah, going back to what we were saying, I mean, Jackson Smith and Jigba outproduced Garrett Wilson in 2021 in that Ohio State offense by a wide margin. And obviously, he's a younger player. But at the same time, I mean, based on how damn good Garrett Wilson was his rookie season, I feel like Garrett Wilson there in the middle of the 3rd round is probably the best pick you're ever going to see. Okay. Now, Hassan coming out. Thank you. So, Treylon Burks in the 106 for the 103 and 202. Very interesting question here. So obviously you'd rather have Treylon Burks over the 202, but getting that move up at the same time is worth a decent amount. So if you look at where these rookies are going in this draft, the 103, according to this startup draft here, would have been Bryce Young, where you have Bijan Robinson, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young all going in the 2nd round. If we're going to be looking at that 106, we're not even close to getting there yet. So honestly, if you are looking at just the overall market in this individual league, I'd say probably the value lies with the 103. But if we map this out, I mean, you're going to be getting Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, probably Jackson Smith and Jigba off the board in the first 5 picks. Obviously, the wide receiver is going to be a little more dependent on landing spot, etc. But are we going to go with Jahmyr Gibbs here? Maybe this is a little early. I get it. But like we were saying at the beginning of this video, I am always willing to bet on the youth when it comes to the running back. So let's go ahead. Let's take him. Obviously, a phenomenal passing down RB. Would be great if he ended up going to the Miami Dolphins in the 2nd round. I don't know what the actual odds of that are. But Ben says, sent Dobbins and the 205 for David Bell and the 107. Well, I would rather have the 107 over J.K. Dobbins, assuming it's a 12-team super flex league. Oh, Javonte Williams, great pick at the 407 as well. I didn't even see that Javonte was on the board. But if we're going to be looking at David Bell versus the 205, I think at this point you have to go ahead. I think you have to take the 205. Very fair deal, my friend. I'd probably lean with the 107 if I'm going to be fair. I mean, honest. Trip Crown says, okay, this is one big counterpoint that a lot of people had with our Russian quarterback video was the fact that a lot of those Russian quarterbacks got injured while they were in the pocket. In my mind, that doesn't really matter. And I know that's crazy to say because you're not necessarily saying, oh, okay, they're going to get injured in this one specific way. It's only going to be running the ball where they're going to have to be, 8 yards from the line of scrimmage. They're going to have to get tackled from left to right, blah, blah. We're not saying that at all. What we're saying is if a quarterback's going out there and taking 250 hits, 200 hits on a season, that's going to be putting them at more risk and putting more wear and tear on their body compared to what you may have with a quarterback taking 30 hits in the pocket. So if Lamar Jackson goes out there, and of course, I'm not saying you shouldn't draft Lamar Jackson. I'm not saying you shouldn't draft Jalen Hurts. I'm just saying that this should be weighed in the equation of how we're valuing these guys and why I still rank Justin Herbert over Jalen Hurts in using it as a tiebreaker. It's a tiebreaker. It's not everything. But still, in my mind, Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts going out there and rushing the ball 15 times a game and taking 10 additional big hits compared to someone like Justin Herbert. Based on what we have seen over the past 3 seasons now, we laid out the numbers. I think it puts them at slightly more risk to be injured than one of those pocket passing options. Like I said, we can always find outlier examples, but I don't know. Now, Ace says, would you rather have Gibbs or Jacobs straight up? Obviously redraft, give me Jacobs, but in Dynasty, I think I'm going to prefer Jahmyr Gibbs. And Josh Jacobs was my most drafted player in redraft last year. We're getting him in the 7th, 8th round. Love the man. But I think at this point, probably have to prefer, you have to prefer Jahmyr Gibbs, especially in a PPR format. Now, Jacobs was drafted in 2019, but he was actually the youngest running back in that draft out of Alabama. He's only drafted at 20 years old, so he's still incredibly young. He's actually only a few months older than Najee Harris, which is hilarious. Okay, so DJ Moore going at the 504 here. Let's figure this out. Christian Watson goes. I like the Christian Watson selection. Would I rather have... There are a few different ways that I think you could take this pick. Since we're on that 2019 class, take the South Carolina wide receiver Deebo Samuel. With Deebo Samuel here, it's an interesting selection because it's almost the exact opposite of the scenario as of Josh Jacobs, where they're both in that same draft class. Like we were saying, Jacobs a little younger than you would assume. Josh Jacobs is still only 24 years old, where Deebo Samuel in that same draft class, but he's older than you'd assume. Deebo Samuel already 27. It's not the best pick in the world. I don't want to sit here and act like, oh, we got the steal of the draft. This is the number one value. You have to go in this direction. There are a few other players that I like, but I think there's an outside chance that we're going to be able to get them on the way back around in the 6th, whereas Deebo Samuel would not be an option for us in the 6th round. Okay. Chubb says, would you rather go Waddle or JSN? Waddle easily. If you're looking at those players like Waddle, Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, in my opinion, you have to be taking them over any rookie wide receiver in this draft class. Where, yeah, maybe JSN was a better prospect than those guys were coming out. But at the end of the day, when you see the elite level wide receiver 1 production in year 1, in year 2 for those guys, at that point, you just have to say you're more confident about their range of outcomes going forward. They're still incredibly young, but it is what it is. A says Waddle or the 102. Now, that's going to be very much different. And this is something that I need to make an entire video about. We talk about this every single offseason, but I find that people have a hard time grasping the idea every single offseason. And in my mind, it's not up for debate. It should be 100%. This is a fact. Whatever player you have ranked, say at the 102, say right now, your second best player, according to your draft board, is going to end up being Bryce Young, right? Bryce Young's your second favorite rookie. In January, in February, in March, the rookie pick 102 is worth more than your second favorite rookie. Because you get the optionality just in case something happens where you don't have to be pegged to that individual player. Now, if the best of the best thing ever happens and Bryce Young finds himself in a great situation like Seattle, you could still go with him at the 102. But worst case scenario, and I'm not even going to say where he could land up, but worst case scenario lands in a horrible landing spot where nobody likes him anymore. You still have the option to go elsewhere with that pick. You still have the option where if you like the landing spot for CJ Stroud, you love where Jahmyr Gibbs ends up, you can pivot in that direction instead. So the rookie pick is always worth more than the player with where you have him ranked. So I think we're actually going to go back to these rookies. We're going to go Jordan Addison here. Let me know what you're thinking. I mean, if we're going to be looking at those veteran running backs, obviously they're going to significantly outproduce some of these rookies that we're looking at. Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon are going to be significantly better pieces over a 1 to 2 year window in terms of just production. But from a value standpoint, I like Jordan Addison here. I mean, obviously we don't know exactly where he's landing up, but I'm pretty confident saying that he's going to get first round NFL draft capital. And I think that does give him a pretty high floor when we make the selection in the middle of the 6th round. Now, Jordan Addison was actually a player that I was considering over Deebo Samuel in the 5th. We decided to go Deebo just because I thought that we would be I don't want to say guaranteed to get Jordan Addison on the way back around, but it would have been more likely that we could have got the combo of Deebo Samuel and Jordan Addison if we selected him the way that we did in the 5th and 6th round there. Okay. Tommy says, Jameson Williams or Treylon Burks. I was able to snag the 9th pick in today's mock, and I was struggling with that decision in the 5th. What do you think? Okay, so I'm in a tough spot with Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams was a player that I did not like investing into coming out. I thought people were aggressively overdrafting him in 2022 rookie drafts. I mean, based on the injury, based on the fact that he was outproduced by Olave, Garrett Wilson at Ohio State, I thought it was laughable that anybody would ever consider taking Jameson Williams over Chris Olave or Garrett Wilson. So I did not like him at the time, but at this point, I am more willing to say that Jameson Williams is a fine dynasty investment because the price is lower than it was a year ago. And at the same time, we saw both Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson be so damn good that I want to give him a pass even a little more than we did for the fact that he was unable to get out there and really produce, and he had to transfer, obviously, to Alabama. Okay, so there are a few names that I'm looking at. So some running backs go here. Moose Goose, I'm sorry, my friend. I hate the tight end selection here. I mean, to take any rookie tight end over someone like George Kittle, I hate, but keep in mind at the same time, I was saying Kyle Pitts over George Kittle. His rookie season was horrible, and we were laughably wrong. But at this point, do we just make this a rookie team? Do we just take Anthony Richardson here? I don't know if it's a good pick, but we need another quarterback. Let me look up NFL mock draft database where right now we can try to pull up where Anthony Richardson's being projected to go in the NFL draft. Obviously, I'm willing to invest into these rushing quarterbacks as rookies at discounts. Like Jalen Hurts was actually one of my most drafted players in that 2020 rookie class in Superflex leagues because you were getting him in the 2nd round. And at the same time, he had all the rushing upside in the world. And I'm not saying Anthony Richardson can be Jalen Hurts. I'm not saying he's going to have that kind of rushing upside. But we know the man can run the ball. And right now, according to NFL mock draft database, he's projected to be a top 10 pick. So if that's going to be the case, hell, I really like taking him here. Yeah, if we're getting a top 10 NFL draft pick that has rushing upside at the quarterback position, I really like that pick in the 7th. But Jay coming out with a donation. Thank you, my friend. Says Amari Evans and a future first for Jameson Williams, Hopkins, and a 2nd. Okay, so give me Jameson Williams over either Amari or Evans. How about this? Let's say the future first and Jameson Williams are equivalent. I'd rather have Amari and Evans over DeAndre Hopkins in the future 2nd. It's a very fair deal. I would say at this point, I just like accumulating future first. 2025 is obviously so far out. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll get back to that in just 1 second. Let's make our pick. I think I know who we're going to go with here. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and, oh my gosh, do we want? We'll take A.J. Dillon. There's another running back that I like. The thing is with A.J. Dillon, there's always the outside chance that you end up getting Aaron Jones being moved off the Green Bay Packers, knowing how much money they could save if they just decided to cut Aaron Jones. Not saying that is going to happen, but it is in the range of outcomes for the Green Bay Packers to decide that they're not going to be able to contend with this roster that they currently have, to ship out Aaron Rodgers, to cut Aaron Jones, save the $12 million or whatever it may be, where A.J. Dillon at that point is getting a ridiculous amount of volume. If you wanted to take Dalvin Cook there, I am completely fine with it, but I feel like we built this team a little more around youth with our selections of Jordan Addison, Anthony Richardson, as well as Jahmyr Gibbs. So we're going to go ahead. We are going to be taking Dillon. Don't love it. I think that you could have gone with a couple different running backs. It is what it is. But going back to this, I really don't like trading for 2025 picks in particular. I love trading for future first. If we can get some 2024 first, I'm all about it. But I always go through this little timeline with people when they're trading for picks that are multiple years out in advance. Think about how long this NFL season was. Think about NFL kickoff, the Los Angeles Rams versus the Buffalo Bills. Think about what your life was like then, how much has changed, how much time has passed. I'm no mathematician, but I believe that was about 7 months ago. So say half a year ago. The offseason is about to be that long. So we have to repeat that. Then we get to the 2023 season. Then we have to do it again for the 2023 season. Then we have to do it again for that offseason. Then we have to do it again for the 2024 season. Like, just think about how long ago that 2020 draft class came in. That's about the same time period that you're going to be waiting for that 2025 pick. Like when Jerry Jeudy, where are some other 2020 players here? God, why am I just... When Jonathan Taylor, when T. Higgins, when J.K. Dobbins, when Clyde Edwards-Helaire all came in, that's about how long you're going to be waiting. Okay, so I think, honestly, one of the players that I really liked in the 8th, maybe coming back around to us in the 9th. We do need to remember to just scroll a bit here to make sure we're not missing anything. Oh, Courtland Sutton, my favorite player, is still available. He's a steal here. He's a steal. Jay says, so I'd actually be on the receiving side of Jameson. Going back to what I was saying, okay, I'm sorry to get away from Jameson Williams as well as Treylon Burks. If you would have asked me this last year, I would have said it was easily Treylon Burks for me. Now it's a little bit closer seeing the success that we have of Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. I'm still probably going to go Treylon Burks, but I do think that they're relatively close. So we're going to go James Cook here. I'm actually confident with this James Cook selection in the 9th. This was a player that I almost considered taking in the 8th. If you're going to be looking at that Buffalo Bills running back room, Naheem Hines is not under contract next year. I mean, he's not guaranteed to be in Buffalo. At the same time, Devin Singletary is not under contract. So right now, James Cook was a 2nd-round draft pick, can catch the ball, and is the only player in that running back room under contract for next season. So I really like the selection that we have here. Okay, so Zach Evans goes 9-10. I think most people would probably rather have Zach Evans. I mean, I'm just so hesitant to invest into any of those running backs at this point until we actually see combine numbers. I know I've said this a million times, and I know people are tired of hearing me say it, but still. Okay, so Tyler Algier, Brock Purdy goes at the end of the 9th. Stafford goes at the beginning of the 10th. Let me know in the chat, do y'all think Brock Purdy is the starting quarterback for the 49ers next year? Just yes or no. A simple yes or no answer is going to do good. Is Brock Purdy the starting quarterback for the 49ers? Chaz says yes. Mean Muggin says no. Cameron says no. Trip Crown says only if they make the Super Bowl. Tommy, no. Mark, no. I am kind of with Trip Crown there. I think the only shot Brock Purdy has to be the starter in San Francisco next season, this is coming from an idiot who drafted Trey Lance everywhere, keep in mind, is that the 49ers beat the Eagles. Not only do the 49ers beat the Eagles, but at the same time, he has a good performance in the Super Bowl. Oh, real quick. We're on the clock. Let me run and make a pick. Are we going with another running back? I don't like the pick. It is whatever. We're going to go Mac Jones. But yeah, so I think what would have to happen for Brock Purdy to have that official starting job next season is we would have to see 2 good performances over the next 3 weeks, it would be. If that happens, like if Brock Purdy goes, right, say, hypothetical world, Brock Purdy beats the Eagles, they play the Chiefs, they play the Bengals, whoever it may be in the Super Bowl, and he has a respectable performance. He is not the sole reason that they lose. How the hell could you bench him? How the hell, and this is coming from someone who has Trey Lance everywhere, could you go back to Trey Lance when really the only time we've seen Trey Lance was when he lost to the Chicago Bears week 1? I don't know. Mean Muggin says, if they win the Super Bowl, if they made it there with Jimmy and they moved on from him pretty quickly, I would say you are not looking at it correctly, my friend. Jimmy Garoppolo, let me pull this up. Jimmy Garoppolo, they did not just move on from him right when they made the Super Bowl. They paid him $41 million in 2018, $18 million in 2019, $24 million in 2020, $25 million in 2021. So to just say, yeah, Jimmy G made the Super Bowl, and then right after they were like, deuces, that's not really what happened. They gave Jimmy G a pretty nice contract. Like they were committed to Jimmy Garoppolo for a bit. Now, Brian Robinson goes, Brian Robinson was going to be the other player we are considering taking in the middle of the 10th round there. I mean, Mac Jones is such a whatever pick just because even if he is the long-term starter, it doesn't matter. Can he actually score points? I mean, he can maybe score NFL points, but from a fantasy football standpoint. Okay. Going back to what we were discussing earlier and saying I don't really care too much about quarterback age, we'll go ahead and take Aaron Rodgers here. Like to be getting Aaron Rodgers after Sam Howell, to be getting Aaron Rodgers after Jordan Love, even if the future is very uncertain, I feel like it has to be seen as a good selection. Because just say, hypothetical worlds, next season Aaron Rodgers is starting for the Packers. He's bad like he was this year. I can still go ahead and trade Aaron Rodgers and a second-round pick to a future or to a contender, probably for their future first. Whereas I'm not really thinking that's happening with Sam Howell. Like Jordan Love and I'm not really buying it. Okay. Hyatt goes here at the beginning of the 12th. Wan'Dale Robinson was a player that I loved in rookie drafts. But one thing that I need to make the adjustment with, which I've been just too bad about over the past 3 or 4 years, been one of the biggest things leading to mistakes, has been investing into players coming off torn ACLs, thinking we are getting some great discount. And then usually it takes them, that next season to just get acclimated. And then the next year they have their fine season. So a little worried about Wan'Dale. Okay. Let's make sure we're scrolling down to see exactly who we want. Roshan Johnson, Malcolm Lawrence. Mine already off the board. Where are we going? Do we just take Alec Pierce? We'll just go Alec Pierce here in the middle of the 12th. I did not like Alec Pierce at all coming out of Cincinnati, but honestly, he had a fine rookie season. A to Z coming out. Happy to see you, my friend says. Offered the 202 for Ridley in a PPR format. I'm not liking it much. What are your thoughts? If you have any shot to contend, I'm going to take Calvin Ridley. Keep in mind, I mean, I'm a little irrational when it comes to Calvin Ridley. I just remember his 2020 season and the fact that the man was literally a top 3 wide receiver in fantasy when healthy with Julio Jones on that team. Seeing how damn good Lawrence is, I think you have Calvin Ridley as the wide receiver 1 for the Jacksonville Jaguars next season. So, I mean, I'm a Ridley fan. Like, if you're going to look at where Ridley went in this draft compared to the rookies, he's going way before the early second-round pick. But there's the entire draft board. Thank you so much, everybody, hanging out with me. I just want to reiterate, I truly do appreciate y'all. I do not tell you nearly enough, and I'm going to start being better about it. Thank you again for everything. I really do hope that you have a phenomenal day. I really hope that you have a phenomenal week. And yeah, that's it. Have a great one, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.